Revenge films.
I was already once divorced when I married my wife. I had a son and a daughter with my ex-wife. And the reason for our divorce was my wife's affair. My ex-wife didn't bother apologizing to me. She was too busy, enjoying her new family with her cheating partner. Of course, I collected a settlement fee from them, but that didn't make me feel better one bit. The most difficult part of all, though, was that for some reason, my ex-wife, who was the one that cheated on me, gained full custody of our children. This was because, even if I were to take them in, I had a lot of business trips and overtime, so I wouldn't be able to look after the children properly. On the other hand, her new partner had a steady salary, which would allow my ex-wife to always be home as a full-time housewife. That's why the court decided that the kids would have a more stable life living with them. I was never able to come to terms with this, but there was nothing I could do about it. After that, my ex-wife got married to the man she was cheating on me with, and my children lived there. I was able to see the kids every now and then, but because they already had a new dad at home, we weren't able to get that close. After having my wife and my children stolen by this guy, I wanted to die and had no will to live. That's when I met my current wife. I was recently traumatized by what happened with my ex-wife, so I didn't think I would ever date another woman, much less get married again. But Kelly became somebody I couldn't live without, and we got married. And 1 year later, she was pregnant with our child. I was completely overwhelmed with love for our little baby. My ex-wife was always into flashy, expensive clothing, but my current wife was the type who prefers to wear clothes that may be cheap, but are more functional. Whether it be raising a child, or anything at all, her motto was to always have fun. So even when our baby was screaming and crying, she would call her parents to vent, or she would invite her friends over and ask about their experience. I could tell that she was genuinely enjoying being a mother. Seeing my wife live her life like this every day made me become more positive too. That's why I was full of happiness. However, as I was living my life on cloud 9, my ex-wife and her new husband died in an accident. Apparently they were run over by a truck while they were going out shopping together, and I heard they were pronounced dead on the scene. Of course, I was never able to forgive my ex-wife, but I never once wished for her to die. It's not that I was sad, but it happened so suddenly that I couldn't deny I was shaken. When I got the call, I rushed over to their house, and the children jumped into my arms. After the funeral, of course, everybody was talking about who was going to look after the kids, but both my ex-wife and her partner's parents were already in nursing homes, and there was simply no way they could take care of them. None of the other relatives wanted to take them in either. Some people said they could maybe take one of the two, but it didn't seem right to split the siblings up after losing their parents. Although they were both so young, apparently my two children had been thinking about what was going to happen to them, and they said to me,
"We want to go to your place, Dad."
To be honest, I didn't know what to say. I already had my new family with my current wife, and our baby was just born. Not to mention there was no way my wife would be happy about this. But I still loved my children, with tears streaming down their faces.
"We want to live with you, Daddy. I promise we won't complain about anything. All you have to do is let us borrow a room. As soon as we're done with the compulsory education, we'll leave immediately."
I didn't want to just leave my children like this. I didn't know what to do. So that day, I had one of the relatives look after the kids, and I went back to my house. When I got back from my ex-wife's place, Kelly looked really worried as she welcomed me home. She knew that we got divorced because of my ex-wife's affair, and she also knew that I had 2 children with her. When I told her about the accident, the first thing Kelly asked was,
"So, what's going to happen to your 2 children?"
As my current wife, of course she would be worried about that. Before we even spoke, my mind was filled with words and images of Kelly rejecting my children from my previous marriage, and I was at a loss for words. However, there was no running away from this issue at hand. And I also couldn't change the fact that I was their father. I finally gave in and began to tell her what happened. No matter how much I thought about it, I couldn't choose between my children and my current life. Until my ex-wife and I got divorced, those two were most definitely my kids. Ever since they were born, I changed countless diapers, and I spent many sleepless nights trying to calm down their crying. That being said, I knew that that wouldn't mean my wife would accept it. That's why I just told my wife how I felt to begin with. However, without any hesitation, my wife said,
Sure.
and that was that.
This little one is still a baby, so she probably won't understand much. And before we know it, I'm sure she'll be calling them her brother and her sister. Plus, because she's so little, I think we should naturally be able to become a family. If anything, it's probably better that we take them in now.
What? Are you sure? We're suddenly going to have 2 more kids, you know?
Your ex-wife's affair has nothing to do with the children, right? Not only that, but the children lost their mother. And if you were to decline taking them in, that means they're going to end up in an orphanage, right? Our baby and those 2 kids are your children. Don't you think that it would be wrong for the 2 of them to end up in an orphanage?
I never could have imagined that my wife would react this way. I felt an enormous weight lifted off of my shoulders and embarrassingly began to cry.
All right. Now that it's decided, you need to hurry up and go get them. I'll start preparing a room for the 2 of them. Oh, just so you know, your game room is going to be gone.
With that, I knew that I could rely on Kelly for anything. I went to go get my 2 children, and I brought them home to meet Kelly, who said,
My name is Kelly, and we're going to be living together starting today. Nice to meet you both.
and she shook their hands. From there, my wife didn't try to act like their mother. She simply supported them to slowly get closer. That being said, after losing both of their parents, the children kept to themselves for a while. However, in the same way I was saved from rock bottom after being cheated on by my ex-wife, I could tell that just by interacting with Kelly, the children were slowly getting their smiles back. Then one day, my daughter tried to call out for my wife and accidentally slipped.
Mom.
My wife's face lit up, and she smiled and said,
Yeah, I would be happy if you called me your mom. I want to be your mom too.
After that, my children started calling my current wife Mom. And even though they weren't biologically related, my wife scolded and loved the two as though they were her own children. As my children started calling her Mom, it started to feel like we were a real family. The days and years went by, and our bond as a family only got deeper. When it came time for the two of them to go to college, after we held a celebratory party for them, the two of them read us a letter. My wife and I were both taken by surprise. In the letter, they wrote that when they were younger, they always wanted to see me, but because we were living apart, they weren't able to tell their mom. That when my ex-wife died, they were so terrified that I would choose my current family and leave them behind. That even if they could live here, that they thought my new wife might hate them and be mean to them, but instead, how happy they were that she told them she wanted to be their mom too. With tears in her eyes, my daughter read us this letter, filled with their thoughts, past and present, as they shared their gratitude before they left for college. From the moment she started reading the letter, I was sobbing so much that I didn't know if I was listening to my daughter's voice or my own sniffles. When I looked to my side, Kelly was crying even harder. Hearing their words felt like we were being told that the decision that we made back then, that the love and warmth that my wife gave to my children, none of it was wrong. And I was so overwhelmed with happiness.
Come on, if you're going to cry, Mom, it's going to make me cry out, so cut it out. Mom's a crybaby. You're the ones who made us cry.
Yo, Dad, you have snot dribbling down your face. Use this. That's because you guys said all those things to make me cry like this. The two of us wrote it together with Jenny. My sister was always saying that she wanted to thank Mom all these years. The only reason the two of us were able to get this far is thanks to you guys, Mom and Dad. It's a parent's duty to take care of their kids. But thank you. Your mom is really happy too. Next to my son and me were my wife and my daughter, who were still crying. When my ex-wife cheated on me and took the kids, I fell into a depression so deep I wanted to die. But then I met Kelly, and we had our own child, and I was able to regain a great happiness in my life. But then, after that, my ex-wife died, and I was anxious that by taking in my 2 children, I would have to part ways with my new life. I can no longer count the number of times I've been saved by my amazing wife, and I'm sure my kids feel the same way. A lot of time has passed since then, but right now, I feel the happiest I've ever been in my life, with my beautiful family.
How was today's video? If you enjoyed it, please subscribe, like, and leave a comment. Stay tuned for more.